Hi, this is Chuck Wolf, and welcome to Place Parts. This time back on the Newbury, England, United Kingdom High Street. Behind me is a closed business that's not going to return after the pandemic. Now, of course, around the world, there's lots of discussion about this issue today. And the question is, given the acceleration role played by the pandemic with regard to changing use of our high streets and downtowns, what will happen next? Today we'll provide a bit of a visual essay about what was and perhaps what could be. Meanwhile, some venues are left behind and blended with other eras. In this case, a popular pub and restaurant. Another popular pub stands next to a first-generation urban mall whose fate post-pandemic will be interesting to consider, given that many of the stores inside stand empty. Before the pandemic, here in Newbury, a classic post office had already closed. Postal processing still takes place in the adjacent parking area. Other legacies survive as well. Here, a classic English cafe and bakery lives on, although with reduced hours during the pandemic. Coincidentally, it's operated by a woman who grew up in the house where we now live. Italian chain restaurant number 1, it won't be coming back. And here, Italian chain restaurant number 2, also gone. Next to it, you guessed it, another Italian restaurant that won't survive. These were blended into the architecture of the historic Newbury Market Square. Something else will take their place. Clark's, a well-known shoe chain, will return, but it has been in trouble. The question is, should businesses like this return in their legacy form, or perhaps in some combination of front showroom and online merchandising in the rear? Now behind me, another garden variety empty storefront. Housing, anyone? And here behind me is the old Thomas Cook Travel Agency, company that went into administration, you may recall, some years ago. Now, a pop-up art gallery, a common solution to this dilemma. Is this sustainable? Perhaps. Or maybe this will be more housing or another business, perhaps another example of showroom in the front, web business in the rear. One question that many ask is whether we need to replace businesses on a like-kind basis. Does this need to be another coffee shop or restaurant? Or could it be something that is more useful to the merchants and town center residents? And then there are more recent urban malls, such as the Parkway, only a few years old. What will happen here? Debenhams is gone, and I believe Monsoon to the right is gone as well. But as you can see, this was already built on a mixed-use premise with housing in place. So maybe that's what's going to happen to some of the empty space. Oh, and down on this end is where John Lewis was, another department store that closed some months ago. We started with the High Street, and we're going to end with our house in the background. From living here, I've learned a lot about the recurring themes and dimensions of urban places. One need only travel back 100 years on this same setting to see, courtesy of Deborah Kinnear's Family Archives, people in front of former retail buildings. Now, if you look carefully, everyone in this photograph is wearing a mask. In the end, the message is that places change, and we have some control over how they change. We can innovate and move forward, but we should always acknowledge that things have happened before from which we can learn. I'm optimistic. I don't know about you. I look forward to talking about more such themes here on Place Parts.